So you would have heard by now we're back. It seems that after 3 weeks we're going to be having students start to return to our school. We're initially going to start with our preschools, kindies, year 1s and 2s, along with 11 and 12s and our year 7 students. So that starts the week after next, and then the week after that we'll be having our year 10 students join us along with our years 3s and 4s. And the week after that, which is actually after the long weekend for Reconciliation Day, we'll have the remainder of our primary school students and the remainder of our high school students, our 8s and 9s and our 4, 5s and 6s. So what does that mean for you? It means that in the meantime, students who are still working at home will still be continuing their online learning, but students who will be coming back to school will be doing their face-to-face learning. There are a couple of changes to that. For example, some students have to come to school because of family reasons, and so those students who are already attending the hub school at the moment, that's our school, can continue to do so. They may be, depending on which year group they're in, be doing their online learning, or they might be doing the face-to-face stuff. So there's a couple of questions that people have been asking me, so I'm just going to read those and then give some short answers. Will classes go back to normal, and will everybody be allowed to attend? Well, the ACT government's approach is that no student will be turned away. We do ask that you try and keep to that timetable because we won't have a full complement of staff. But as much as possible, if students can follow what's been set out about who can return when, that'd be great. But we do understand for some families that's not possible, and certainly students can attend. Those classes returning to normal will be the ones that are meant to be here. Those students who have to attend like they are at the site at the moment will still be doing their online component. I've had a couple of parents ask about transition planning for kids with ASD and other support needs where changes can be difficult. Yes, certainly we know that we're going to have to do a bit of work with some students who don't cope with change very well, and particularly those students with autism spectrum disorders, and we'll be doing a little bit of work with those families over the coming weeks to try and smooth that transition. Most of them will be pretty happy though, because they know their teachers and they know their classes. So I don't think it's going to be a huge problem, but certainly any change is challenging for all students, let alone some students with extra needs. So the Chromebooks. So students who already had a Chromebook, either their own or one that was issued to them by the ACT government in 7 to 10, of course can keep their own Chromebooks. If we issued one to you though, or an iPad, there were some students who also got iPads, we do need those returned. And we're going to send out some information about how you can return those. Because they're the Chromebooks that we use for our students every day. And so if they're at home or with students, particular students, other students may miss out. So we'll definitely need those Chromebooks back if you've borrowed one. If we get a case of COVID-19 occurring within the school, there is a protocol around that. And what happens is that our school will be obviously evacuated for the time where they need to clean. They'll do some tracing. That means they'll find out who the person who's been infected has been in contact with, and they'll do some testing around that, and then we'll usually return within a very short space of time. So in the case of a couple of other schools, it's been 1 or 2 days, so very short space of time. But they do a thorough clean of the school, and usually that contact tracing means that they go and find out those people who the person's been in contact with, test those people in a very short space of time as well. So if that does happen, it won't be a long break, but we may have to ask people not to return to school for a day or 2. In the bigger picture, if things change in our society, and we're not sure about that, whether we will have a second wave of infection, certainly we'll get some information. My understanding is that at this stage, they're pretty confident that there won't be a huge second wave, and if there is, it may be in pockets and certain areas may be isolated as a result. It's unlikely, but it could happen that we do have a full-on second wave of infection, and then we will obviously have some other plans, and closing schools may be part of that. The only other thing that I have to say is I want to thank you for your support of our school, and whether you're a student or a parent, really appreciate all the work that you've done off-site to make sure that the students' learning still continues. I also want to send a big thank you out to our teachers, and I'd like you to also say to your teachers, thank you for putting that extra effort. A lot of teachers had to learn a whole lot of new skills and redesign the way they taught. And that's a big challenge. So say thank you to your teachers. Make sure that when you come back, you greet them warmly and within the confines of obviously social distancing still. And we'll be able to give you more information as the government makes some decisions. Thanks for that.